Serbia is set to embark on the EU accession process, and the rule of law and strengthening justice systems is at the heart of that process. The Serbian judiciary's performance lags EU member states, including the EU 11. But the story isn't all bad. There are some areas and some courts that are performing really well, stack up really nicely against EU benchmarks. But then there are other pockets of underperformance that reflect poorly on the rest. The Serbian authorities and the European Commission were looking for a baseline assessment of the Serbian judiciary that could inform Serbia's action plan for accession. Together they came to the bank, and I think they saw us as an honest broker, good with data and able to convene fragmented stakeholders and to facilitate an inclusive process. What we do in the functional review is to document what works well, what doesn't, why and where, and how that stacks up against EU benchmarks and standards wherever possible. The Serbian judiciary isn't underfunded. It's more that resources aren't allocated effectively. There are too many judges at the top and too many low-skilled staff at the bottom, and a missing middle of skilled professionals who could drive a modernisation agenda. In terms of efficiency, the system struggles with a legacy of bureaucracy and red tape. In terms of quality of justice services is undermined, often by poorly drafted legislation and by inconsistent decision-making that the appeal system is failing to rectify. Then in terms of access to justice, for the average Serbian, the courts are largely unaffordable, largely due to high attorney fees that are then blown out by any kind of delay. The courts don't serve the poor terribly well. A court fee waiver program exists, but it's inconsistently applied. Legal aid is very patchy, and any access to information, particularly legal information in lay formats, is extremely limited. The report outlines a suite of specific recommendations across the board under each area, but then highlights just a few priorities that could set the Serbian judiciary on a critical path. They include things like designing a framework for measuring system performance and using existing data to inform management decision-making, better coordination in budgeting and beginning to make some trade-offs there, and developing a continuing training program and addressing a couple of the bottlenecks like service of process and scheduling of hearings.